What up, my bad bovine? We are here today to talk a little bit about the two mindsets that present themselves in the discussion that has come up over where Wraith should be placed on tiering. I don't care where you want to put any given killer on the tier list. To me, the meaty chunk of this discussion comes from the disparity in what they think is a killer. Otz is, to me, I would call the big dick killer. He wants to kill them all and doesn't really give a shit what the entity thinks at the end of the game. True talent, I think, is an entity's boy in a way. If we're talking lore here, so the first thing is when the match ends, what makes you feel happy? For me, I'm happy if I had fun. And that comes a big chunk from the fact that I don't really strive to be the best. I strive to have goofy shit happen. I strive to have stupid stuff happen that's funny. I just strive to enjoy my time in this game. And so overall, I don't have any specific play style, but I would say I'm somewhere in between the two play styles presented. And so I think there's some gaps to be bridged here. Otz's style is more of what I would call the serial killer. He wants to kill everybody and be done with it. Not necessarily as soon as possible, because he's a lot like me in the sense that he'll give you the hatch if you're the last person alive. And I think the disparity here comes from the fact that Otz can and will slug early and often, to the point where I'm like, man, I can't even stomach how much he slugs. Not that it's like a repulsive behavior, but I'm just like, how do you have time for this? I know that people are down, but once they start getting up, you're not gonna find them. They're gonna go do stuff. He just has so much confidence in the power of slugging that I just don't. I don't have confidence in the power of slugging, and it's also just kind of a dick move. Will I slug someone if I think they have D-strike? Fucking absolutely. Did I fuck this play up with this trap? From the moment I placed that trap, I knew I fucked that shit up. Doesn't matter. Back on topic. I would say true talent, or who I'll be calling True ET because I think that's hilarious and stupid. True ET, I would call him the gamer's killer. He's got that same checklist that he wants to get off that I have when I play Survivor. He's like, I gotta hit people this many times. I gotta make sure I hook them at least this many times. Gotta get some good chase in. Gotta make sure I'm kicking the stuff. He's got a big old checklist. And to me, I understand where that's coming from. I understand the mentality of if I gain a pip, I win. Because I gained a pip and the game has rewarded me for doing what the game wants. But at the same time, I see where Otz is coming from. I'm a killer. I want to kill people. I will kill people. I've honestly spent a lot of time on both sides of the field, though I would say I've spent way less time on the side of the field as the killer who's trying to just game the system. For me, I start gaming the system when I know I'm going to win. When these people have potatoed so hard that one of them's dead, or I have 5 generators and they're all DOH, at that point, then I'm like, we're going to game the system and we're going to see what happens. Up until that point, I'm just like, we're going to see what happens. So now that we've rendered two human beings into black and white mentalities of playing a video game, let us talk a little bit about the fact that I understand that things are gray and everything I said has a little bit of caveats, because we're going to get to those caveats. Did I or did I not say that slugging is a dick move? Well, guess how this ends. Spoiler. Dick moves. Moving on from that, we're going to talk a little bit about what the game expects from you. Because this is a game that understands that there's cheap bullshit in this game. This is a game that understands that you could bring iridescent heads and just boop, 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 down 3 people, reload, and down another person, and now the match is over if they don't have a unbreakable. This is a game that understands you can do stuff like that. This is a game that understands that you could murder outright every single person after hooking them once. This is a game that doesn't want you to do that. They're going to actively discourage you from gaming the system in a way that is, let's be completely blunt, disrespectful to the game itself. This is a game where the entity feeds off of hope. That's the lore of the situation here. He chucks you aside like a discarded husk when you're hopeless. So they're never gonna reward you for leaving the survivors feeling hopeless. That's not going to be a system that games you up. And so, I understand that we want to be the big dick killer and kill all the people in under a minute to flex our big dick, but at the end of the day, that is actively just not going to work. The game won't let you do it. I mean, in a way, and I'm gonna make a brief sidetrack here. In a way, the game will allow you to do that. You can stay at rank 10 basically forever, flexing your big dick, basically going D-pip, safety, gain a pip, flexing your big dick, because you're gonna safety a lot, flexing your big dick. And so if you're okay with the game literally calling you a mid-tier killer because you don't respect the game at all, that's fine. Continue to play it your way. Obviously, we're here to discuss what to you is a win, and kind of in a way to see if we can maybe consolidate these 2 mindsets from 2 brilliant killers that I respect a lot. If we want to merge these mindsets, I think the answer is what I'm terming the sadistic killer. And what is a sadistic killer? A sadistic killer in real life, and I guess in this game in a way, is someone that just revels in all of it. Not just the death, but the gore, the dismemberment, the suffering, the woe. I think my doctor kind of embodies this the best. I don't really enjoy playing the doctor because I think it sweeps a little too... It dials the suffering to 11 when you go impossible skill check doctor. And I think skill check doctor having his suffering at 11 though is a good starting point. Because imagine being the doctor. Do you think the doctor really cares if you repair the generators? No. He just wants to dole out treatment and punishment as much as humanly possible before you're dead. That's all he wants to do. And so if you kind of have a little bit of the doc in you of I'm going to dole out punishment according... And you have a little bit of the entity's boy in you in that you go around, you kick your generators, you do the stuff that makes the big old tentacle monster in the sky smile. I feel like if you do both, you maintain that big dick energy and you maintain the pips. Because you're not just steamrolling people because you can. I firmly believe that if you as a killer know you are going to win, dial it back. Maybe add some risk so that you take a play where you're not sure if you're going to win. You give them a little bit more rope so that they can hang you. Because then when it works out for them, it's cool. And when it works out for you, it doesn't just feel so cheap. Having answered the question of kind of how do we consolidate these 2 mindsets to make an effective and fun killer to play, I think the next biggest question is, what makes a killer weakest? And note I'm not just saying weak, because there's hella things that make a killer weak. But I think what makes a killer weakest is the things that make a survivor strongest. And what makes a survivor strongest is information. Loads and loads of information. That's why Survive with Friends are so crazy, is they know things via what would amount to telepathy if this was real life. So, keeping that in mind, I really, really respect True ET's assessment of that. The more you can deny these people information, keep them guessing as to what's going to happen to them next, the more you are able to circumvent what arguably makes the survivors strong of information, as well as the ability to loop you. Because when you're in a loop, it's kind of just, how soon can I crack this pallet, or can I force them into my trap or my kit? And if you can just circumvent that whole discussion of can I do this or that, and instead just whack them down when they don't expect it, that's huge power. That's undeniable power. That's so much power that it got me thinking, like, if I flip this in the other direction and I play a killer that can't stop its terror radius, and instead I make a killer have a terror radius huge, what happens? And then I remembered I did the challenge of prevent any exit gates from being opened at all using Unnerving Presence. And so obviously I did impossible skill check Trapper, and I had people disconnect a lot, like every time. And so I said, it's probably the map, let's try Plague. And exactly what I thought would happen happened. 50% of the people got out. And admittedly, I'm mid-tier Plague, and I was using mid-tier add-ons that I call all the puke, so, cooldown and speed on puke. Not speed of infection, speed at which you puke. And, half of them got out. And at the end of the day, it's boils down to the simple factor of it's never going to be as powerful to have a ginormous terror radius, because it's not going to deny them as much information as you would hope. And you basically have to waste a perk in taking Distressing, whereas these other killers are just able to use their natural abilities to deny the information by removing their terror radius. And so I think until there is a killer or a perk with just unlimited terror radius, I'm talking you're just hearing Heartbeat the whole time forever, and it's got a kit that's pretty cool and works with that, I think the power is in denial and less in just like, oh, I use the thing and I do this stuff well. To conclude, whether you decide to just revel in the death of every survivor, or if you want to make the big old boy in the sky happy, it doesn't really matter, because this game's always going to be a spectrum, and any given match is going to have you waver between the playstyles, because no match is the same. Because there's always going to be this massive amount of variance, when it comes to viability, I think it's important that you have to consider both sides of the win condition, and kind of then disregard them and focus on more important questions, like when is a killer at their weakest and when is a survivor at their strongest, because that kind of boils past what we're trying to accomplish in any given match, because at the end of the day, as killers, we're always going to be trying really hard to mitigate the bullshit. And if we're trying to mitigate the bullshit, I gotta agree that there is just an undeniable amount of extra power in being able to remove your terror radius, because it's an innate ability that if other killers want to mimic, they have to either make their terror radius massive at the expense of taking perks that aren't very good, or they have to take Insidious, which is just arguably stupid. Just don't bring Insidious for any reason ever, unless, again, you have a very specific goal in mind when it comes to these challenges they are throwing in your face. Everything is excusable when it comes to these challenges. So, we find ourselves coming to an end here, my friends. I have a little bit more to say about some personal etiquette from one killer to another, but overall, I think I have done a decent job in steering the discussion while maintaining a constructive outlook on the whole thing. So, if you want to pipe in on that discussion, do be so kind as to leave a comment, specifically with regards to when you think a killer is at their weakest, and what killer is at their weakest permanently because of it. And this is considering all add-ons. I don't give a shit. Or not. Take them off, put them on, do your thing. So, I think at the end of the day, I hope you learn a little something about the fact that there's definitely freedom in not caring if everybody dies or whether or not the entity is happy. Be your own person. Revel in the entire experience instead of one or the other. And if I can say, and just give you a personal suggestion, don't, unless you have a very specific goal in mind, don't slug the last guy, or shall I say penultimate survivor, when you intend on finding the last survivor so you can eke out the 4K. Playing cat and mouse with one guy is a waste of everyone's time, and just, let the hatch happen. That's purely personal, though, and I'm just saying it's a bit more respectful to everybody's life force to not. And that's coming from a guy who has definitely done both.
Let me ask you a question. Has anything ever happened to you that you couldn't explain? That made you feel sort of foolish when you tried to tell somebody about it? Well, if it has, you have plenty of...